Perspective is key. What is the hardest thing you're going through right now will be easy in a year. And remember that it gets easier. You'll have new challenges, but what you're going through right now is very doable.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Build to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth starts every single day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth in life so you can give more all over the way to help MVPs, the most vulnerable people. My name is Brett Swartz. Each and every episode, we're joined by the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires, and they share their story, secrets, and insights with us so we can all level up and compound our wealth and our impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of Texas, and he's on a mission to help all of us dominate Google Ads and grow our business. And today we're going to be talking about AI and Google Ads and what's changed, what's not changed, and maybe how it's being enhanced, and what are some things that you can take advantage of as an entrepreneur who's wanting to level up their SEO, level up their Google Ads. But our guest is the CEO of StubGroup, again, where he helps small business owners and marketing teams who are struggling with paid ads to achieve a real ROI. He combines expert ad management with a personalized boutique approach that fosters close client relationships and ensures sustainable growth without the risk of unexpected setbacks like ad disapproval or suspensions. And his journey began at 19, working in a warehouse while nurturing a passion for marketing. And then he joined his brother to build StubGroup from the ground up, and so much more. They have served over 2,000 clients, and they have run more than 15,000 campaigns and generated over 3 million leads and over 400 million in client revenues. Amazing stuff. Please welcome to me, John Horn. John, how are we doing?
Brett, doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. If our listeners getting to know you for the first time, maybe just give us a little bit more about your story and then your current focus.
Yeah, totally. So I had the opportunity to get into the workforce from a pretty young age, actually starting really at age 10, going into the warehouse one day a week. My dad was an assistant warehouse manager. And so I got to see what is it like to actually, have a job, work with people many times my age, and got to do that for many years. And then, other jobs, customer service, marketing, so forth. And then came StubGroup, like you mentioned. And so StubGroup started by my brother and a long-term friend of his. And they brought me on as basically employee number one. We said, hey, there's this thing called digital marketing. A lot of people need help with it. How do we help them? And so we bootstrapped the company, figured out how to do it ourselves, figured out how to bring on more talent into the team. And then I took on the CEO role about 6 years ago. And it's been a fun journey to build.
Excellent. Let's dive right into the topic at hand, which is, AI versus Google Ads and the world as we know it. So people are saying, ChatGPT is taking over all the things. And, so maybe just, what is the biggest myth with that, or what is kind of the new norm? And maybe you can and then we can dive into the power of Google Ads and how you help your customers.
Yeah, AI is changing a lot of things right now in the marketing space, really on both the demand side and the supply side, which we can talk about both. But what most people see is what I would call on the demand side, which is how are people actually going and finding information online now? And Google is still the number one place people go to find information. But we see this massive exponential curve of people also using either Google's own AI tools like Gemini, AI overviews on search engine results pages, or now AI mode, which is directly available from when you go and do a search on Google, as well as, like you said, ChatGPT and some of the other players like Perplexity and so forth. And I'd say what we're seeing is we are absolutely seeing people start to use these LLMs to find not just kind of general educational information, but to make purchase decisions. We've already started getting clients ourselves who found StubGroup through ChatGPT. I was talking to a mover based out of California last week, and he's like, "Hey, I just got a client. He typed in, I think, best movers near me or best movers in Los Angeles, something like that. And I came up and he found me, and we closed the deal." And so there is very much this shift right now where people are using these LLMs to make actual purchase decisions or to find the places they're going to purchase products or services from.
Interesting. Okay. And by the way, we're speaking with Mr. John Horn. If you want to get started, you can go to stubgroup.com on how to level up your Google Ads and all things marketing. I'm curious, John, so you mentioned this. So how would one become the go-to, best blank in this space? what can someone be doing if they're in the business side of things that want to be the top search or the top person for that or top group for that?
That is the billion-dollar question right now that everyone is trying to solve. There are definitely some clear indicators of how these LLMs look at things. In many ways, it's pretty similar to how traditional SEO has been. They're looking for trust factors. They're looking for websites that, have a lot of other people linking to them. People are using them. It seems they have credible information. But it's very different from search engines in that your goal isn't, okay, I have, there's to these 10 spots and I've got to rank my page in the first couple of spots to gain traffic. It's not like that because the LLMs can go to any page on your website, get whatever information they want. And also they pull information from off the website as well. And so we see a lot of user generated sites as well. Reddit for sure being the top one, where LLMs, ChatGPT, for example, are often pulling information from Reddit, from Quora, things like that. They're looking at reviews online. They're looking again at your own website. They're looking at other, top 10 listicle type things out there, and they're putting this case together. And so part of ranking well in the LLMs is, again, a lot of the same types of things you would do to rank well organically. But also it's thinking through from, let's say, a structured data perspective, how can I make my information very readable and understandable and findable by the LLMs? How can I tailor it so that they're going to say, okay, this is a really easy to summarize thing. Let me grab this information. And then again, building that kind of digital footprint, also thinking about what's on Reddit about my company, what do my reviews look like, and so forth and so on.
Okay, excellent. So it sounds like some things are the same, and then maybe some things you might want to consider, like more Reddit or get more reviews, and then also making it easier more digestible for it to easily be able to find and pull back to the end user. Okay, so focusing now on Google Ads, what would you say for sure has stayed the same so far? That maybe the biggest myth out there that LM's taking over all the Google Ads kind of thing.
Yeah, but Google Ads is still very far from being dead. You still see the majority of people are using Google when they search for things. And even though AI overviews are super common now in Google, the thing that comes up at the top often when you search for something, trying to give you an AI generated summary of information, still a lot of people, if they're actually going to be making purchase decisions, whether they're looking for a service, a product, information, whatever it is, they're still very often interacting with ads. And so I wouldn't say that we have seen decrease in click volume on the ad side of things. We've seen some interesting things on the organic side of things, which point to a lot of people not clicking through organically after seeing those AI overviews. But on the ad side of things, for more commercial intent searches, there's still tons and tons of traffic. And then in addition to that, Google, they make their money from advertising. And so they are very incentivized to figure out how to incorporate advertising into the AI side of things. And so they say that they have ads and AI overviews right now. I haven't met anybody in my industry yet who's actually seen one live. It's kind of the searching for dead bodies right now because Google's always talking about it and no one ever sees it. But in theory, there are ads live in AI overviews, and they are also coming to AI mode as well, which is Google's more ChatGPT-like actual chat bot that you can chat with directly through the search engine results page. And so Google, they want to make money. They're going to keep integrating advertising, I believe, into the AI kind of demand side of things.
Okay, excellent. Okay, let's dive right into dominate Google Ads and grow your business. So now you guys just focus, over 2,000 clients you've helped and all kinds of success. So walk us through kind of your guys' unique advantage for helping businesses, run successful Google ad campaigns.
A lot of it comes down to really speaking with business owners, marketing managers, et cetera, and identifying basic business things, which unfortunately a lot of people don't really have a good grasp on in their own businesses, which is what can you afford to pay to acquire a lead, which is what does your sales process looks like, what sets you apart from the competition, things that don't immediately sound like Google ads. It's not like what campaign type or what negative keyword to add, but those are the things that truly make businesses successful. So what I talk about a lot with our team is we're not button pushers. It used to be Google Ads was just tons of button pushing, tons of manual things. A lot of things have been automated over time. There's still buttons to push. There's still a lot of decisions to make, but a lot of it comes down to Now, the quality of the data that we are inputting into Google to inform them about how the campaigns are working or not working. It's about the big picture decisions. What offer should we be pitching? How should we be positioning the business? What's the flavor of our ads and our landing pages and things like that. And so the businesses that we see be successful are the ones who don't just look at Google Ads as this kind of magic bullet that you just start running and it's automatically going to print money, but more of, look, this is one important aspect in our overall marketing strategy, and we want to get it right because it can be very powerful. But let's think through strategically how to fit that into our strategy, what we're offering, and then, of course, what that sales process looks like after we generate those leads or customers or whatever it may be.
Okay, excellent. So then, what's the next step here? So you've got a team to help you with the strategy, and you know what it costs to acquire a lead. You have a sales process. Those things. What's the next kind of a thing that you would say to help with the process to get it going?
Yeah, so then we're going to dive into really what the funnel, because Google Ads has a large variety of places where you can reach people. A lot of people who think about Google Ads to think about the text ads that come up when you search for things, and that is kind of often what I would call bottom funnel. That is where most advertisers start. But you also have so many other opportunities. You have YouTube, which is a massive opportunity. You have Google's display network, which is millions of websites and apps that serve ads on them. You even have things like Gmail and Google's Discover app and so forth. And so when we're working with clients, we kind of figure out, okay, where do we want to reach people in their buying journey? Is this more of a direct response? Someone searches for something on Google and we want to show up for that? Is it more of a create awareness that the solution exists? In which case, YouTube might be a great place to spend more of our budget, things like that. And so we figure out what's that funnel. And usually we start on the lower side. We start conservatively. We want to prove concept. We want to make sure that we're actually doing a good job of converting the hottest traffic possible at the bottom of the funnel before we start working our way up through the funnel. And so we want to do that, validate things, get things working, get tracking set up on the website so that we, again, are getting good data that we feed back into Google, and then scale the way from there.
Excellent. Now let's talk about Google Ads versus Facebook ads, and then also Google Ads to auto webinars. What's your feedback or thoughts on those two?
Yeah, so Google versus Facebook, they often work very well together. Usually you'll start with one or the other. And the framework that I talk businesses through in making that choice is often, are people actively searching right now for what you sell? Or are you needing to make them kind of aware of what your solution is? So a great example, if you're a plumber, someone's going to go when their sink is leaking, they're going to search, find a plumber near me, and you're going to have a much different response from a Google ad than a Facebook ad for a plumber. But if you are, let's say you're a fashion brand, you're selling clothing, and you're probably not going to stand out on the Google search results page from Walmart and Kohl's and Amazon and everyone else selling those clothes. But if you have great creative and you can target the right people, Facebook might be a fantastic place, and Instagram is part of that, to go out and say, hey, look how awesome this looks. Don't you want to wear this? And so often businesses will start with one or the other platform, but then over time, as they kind of work their way up through that marketing funnel, they will often get into both platforms and see a lot of, building upon each other between those two platforms.
Okay, so it's like more niche, the more unaware, maybe lean towards Facebook, Instagram to start. The more just, general, more awareness, right? Then lean towards Google ads and YouTube, I guess, or maybe we'll talk about YouTube in a second. And then eventually you cross over to the other side. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, often that's how it works.
Okay, walk through like Google ads, right? So, I mean, let's maybe apply it to my business here. So I have capital gains tax solutions. It's pretty niche. Like we provide a capital gains tax referral strategy when people exit Bitcoin business, real estate, massive exits, millions and millions and millions of tax, and we're gonna help defer it all, build this whole plan. But what we provide is pretty niche. Their CPA typically doesn't know about it, right? Their financial advisor typically doesn't know about it. And they're learning about it maybe for the first time because they're tired of the old strategies, which put them kind of in a box. So your instinct, and I have, 2,900 subs on YouTube. We've got a podcast, we got a best-selling book. But we're still, it's still pretty niche. People don't really know about it. So what would be your instinct to start on that?
Yeah, so probably the first place I would start would be figuring out what are the questions that people are asking that tell you, okay, they need my help. Because even if they don't know that your service exists, if there are questions that they're asking, for example, on Google that tells you, oh, that's who I want, then you could target advertising towards those questions. And so when they type that question into Google, you've got an ad coming up, with the answer or in some way tailored to help them with that question. And then, it could be providing a white paper, a lead magnet, some type, some way of collecting their information. So I would definitely think through that kind of bottom funnel, people who are actively searching either for the service itself or searching for a solution to a need that you can provide through your
Yeah,
service.
let's give it. So I one. My client told me this. He says he actually found me by searching how does a landlord retire. We did a client testimonial, and he's like, that's what I searched, and then you popped up on YouTube, and I wasn't, and I don't even know that I made a video that says how does a landlord retire, but maybe I should. That means I should do that because obviously that's very specific, that's very niche. That's what he searched. He's one of my best clients, so I should probably make that. And so what you're saying is, do you then go to Google Ads and say, for this question, if someone asks it, I want to be the top search and I want to pay for this, my search to be, my website to be at the top of the search. Is that how that kind of works?
Exactly. So you might target a keyword phrase like, landlord retire. You might type out the whole question, target that as a keyword, and then write an ad that pertains to that, so that hey, if someone searches for this and then they see this ad come up as the top result on the Google page, they're going to say, oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for, and click
What's
through.
the average cost for something like that? I guess it depends on what the search word is, right? I mean, the other thing is capital gains tax. Like how do I avoid capital gains taxes? Someone might ask, or how do I sell Bitcoin without moving to Puerto Rico, because of capital gains taxes. So would you just buy select keywords? Is that, and then Google obviously ranks those based upon how many people are bidding on them, is how this works. And then you buy it and then you track to see which ones, and your team maybe does that, helps us with all that.
Yeah, the way Google works is an auction. It's an auction-based system, and so there's really two primary aspects that go into it. When you say I want to show up in this keyword, and there are other people who also want to show an ad for that keyword, the one factor is how much you're willing to spend for that click, and the second factor is the quality of the ad and landing page experience, because Google knows that someone's way more likely to click on your ad about capital gains than if Geico's like, hey, I just want to show ads for everything. And so higher click-through rate equals A, better user experience, B, more money for Google. And so you can get an edge over people. You don't always have to outspend them if you have better, more compelling, more accurate ads. But then also you do have to spend money. And so what it costs completely depends upon the vertical and upon how aggressive your competitors are being. If you're selling a cheap widget through Google Shopping, you might have, a 50-cent cost per click, 25-cent cost per click. If you're a personal injury attorney lawyer, you might have a $300 cost per click. It very much depends upon what people are willing to pay for that traffic.
Okay, making sense. Everyone's speaking with Mr. John Horn. You can learn more about him by going to StubGroup.com. It's STUB group.com. Let's talk about YouTube and those the ads that someone may not click, right? Or it goes for 5 or 10 or 20 seconds, whatever it is, and they don't click, but they see it, right? And I've heard that there's, I don't know if there's ways to kind of game the system, if you will, but you only charge if they click. But you could say in the, the little mini ad, hey, if you have capital gains tax, challenges with this, and this, Bitcoin real estate business, you should go to my website because we can help you solve that. And then they can go, but if they click, you pay. Like, walk us through, is there some kind of way to, I don't know if game the system is the right way, but anyway, any kind of feedback on that?
Yeah, there are definitely some smart ways you can approach YouTube advertising. So the primary type of ad you'll see on YouTube is what they call a skippable ad, which is exactly what you're describing. So for 5 seconds, you have to watch this ad, and then you have the option to skip it. And generally speaking, the way it works with YouTube ads is if someone has to watch at least 30 seconds of the ad, or if it's shorter than 30 seconds, the entirety of the ad, before you're actually charged for that view. And so the way you want to think about it is, A, that the first seconds of the video view are free, and B, most people are going to click skip because they want to be watching a Mr. Beast video. They don't want to be watching your ad right now. And so you want to make sure in those first 5 seconds of your ad to communicate who you are and what solution it is that you have, so that the 95, 99% of people who don't actually engage with your ad are still seeing it. You're basically getting that exposure for free. And then, hey, some of those people later on, when they go to search for a solution or they see other content, they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Even subliminally, your name, your brand is there, and that helps capture their attention.
It's awesome. And you help people set all of that up and get all of that going and monitor it and the analytics and the strategy. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what you said in the beginning, right? It's the team to help you execute this ongoing campaign. It's not just set it and forget it. It's the ongoing nature of this. Can you give us some real life case studies, just so we can, kind of bring this to life for everyone who's listening? Anything that kind of comes to mind here?
Yeah. So one thing a lot of businesses struggle with, let's say they're lead gen businesses, is lead quality. They might be getting a bunch of leads coming in, but you've got tire kickers, people who aren't in their target demographic. For whatever reason, they're not the right leads. And so one of the more advanced tactics and strategies that we can use, great example would be a client that we have. They're a distributor in the fuel space. So if you are, let's say, a construction company, you need to buy a ton of fuel for your bulldozers, your trucks, whatever. And you go and you look for, fuel delivery near me, for example. Well, guess what? There's also a million homeowners who get fuel delivered to them for their, heating oil or for whatever service. And they often use the same keywords. And so it made it really hard for this client to be like, okay, is this, a one-off residential job our client doesn't even serve? Or is this the construction company trying to buy millions of gallons of fuel? And so the way that we really massively helped improve lead quality there is by using what Google calls offline conversion tracking. Basically, what it means is we track when someone, let's say, calls a client, fills out a form, etc. We identify which of those are actually relevant, good leads to the client. And we feed that data back into Google. And then we say, Google, get us more of these. These are the valuable ones. And so Google's able to look at that. And because we're using automated bidding strategies, Google's looking at millions of signals every time someone does a search. And they're seeing, oh, wait, there's a bunch of overlapping signals between this search here and what, StubGroup said is good for us. Let's bid aggressively for this. Whereas this one over here, maybe it's that homeowner is like, oh, okay, this doesn't really overlap with what with what StubGroup's looking for. Let's not bid aggressively for that. And so for that client in particular, we've been able to massively improve the relevance of lead quality over time by using this offline conversion.
That's really smart. So basically it's telling Google, hey, these 10 were great. These other 50 were not great. And then you constantly tell them that. And then they match those 10 and to say more yes to the 10 and less to the other 50 that weren't so great. And it keeps iterating. And eventually, ideally, you're getting 15 great and 20 great and 30 great and less not so great. Is that a fair summary?
Exactly.
That's sweet. And so you guys manage that whole process for that too. So that's another part of your service. Well, just curious, like generally speaking, what does, your service look, cost, time commitment, team implementation, like who are the best customers that you're working with? What are they bringing to the table? And then what does it look like long-term?
Yeah. So let's break it down super straightforward here. So the way that we work is, we charge a fee for our services, and then a client pays ad spend directly to Google or any other platform we're managing for them. So the amount they're paying to Google obviously depends upon what they're trying to get out of Google. But for most businesses, we say if you don't have at least $2,000 per month in ad spend, and of course, if that's not going to break the bank for you, you're not depending upon the livelihood of your business on that $2,000, then that's a good place to start. Because you do need to spend enough to capture enough data on the Google side of things to be able to prove the model and start making decisions, seeing this is working, this isn't. So that's usually the baseline that we recommend for most businesses, although there are exceptions. Our fees, generally, we have like a $750 a month retainer plus 10% of whatever ad spend we're managing. So that's usually the structure for our pricing. And then the way that we work with clients is, they have a dedicated team that's working with them, same person they're working with month in and month out, working on strategy, figuring things out, constantly looking to improve performance. And the best clients that we have, the ones we love working with and the ones we drive the best success for, are those clients who really view it as a partnership working with us. I'm sure you've experienced this in your own business. Some businesses, for whatever reason, they hire an agency or whoever, and they have kind of this hostile, antagonistic approach where it's like, prove why we're working with you and everything's your fault and that type of thing. And that just makes it really hard for us to be successful for you. But if you're approaching it as, look, I just want my business to grow. I'm bringing you in to help. We're going to figure it out together. If a mistake is made, we're going to figure out why. We're going to learn from that. And I'm going to give you all the information I can to make you, StubGroup, as successful for me as possible. That's where the magic is really made.
Okay, making sense, John. Thank you for breaking that down so succinctly. And by the way, again, John Horn, everybody, you can learn more about him by going to stubgroup.com, stubgroup.com. So a couple of things that kind of pop up here, like hyperlocal, getting hyperlocal. Let's say your company is located in a state, but you know that like this particular part of Palo Alto is high net worth and San Diego is high net worth and part of Manhattan, New York. And you're like, okay, I know that people are selling massive real estate or businesses in this, highly concentrated piece of local real estate, as an example. Can you hyperlocal your Google ad spin to those locations, A, and then B, have it traced back to your website, all those things, right? Like is there a strategy behind that? Because that's kind of what comes to mind for my business, because we pretty much know that let's say New York, New Jersey, California, these are the highest capital gains tax states. They're massive, huge, massive exits. And if we can position in these certain marketplaces, we already have deals that have closed. So we kind of already have deal stories. We already have testimonials. We already have the proven strategy. Again, it's just about awareness again, but how hyper local can you get with these things?
You can get very local. So you can target the zip code level. You can draw a radius around a particular location. And of course, larger things, cities, states, DMAs, things like that. It's not 100% perfect because, people on their cell phone, you've got different cell towers and things. People, work in one location, live in another, things like that. There's always some gaps or some challenges, but for most businesses, it's good enough that absolutely you can target very, very small local area and try and dominate that area so that when someone is looking for content or searching in that area, you are for sure coming up for them as a solution.
Okay. Is there any difference that you see in like professional services versus like, local, I guess like say professional wealth services, right? Versus like the local, plumber or electrician, right? And that kind of thing. Is there any like different strategy or approach to that? More YouTube focused versus Google, front page, or walk us through kind of that strategy.
I would say you definitely have to take into account, customer journey and user intent. So if someone's looking for a plumber, most of the time they have a problem right now. They're going to do a quick search, see what comes up, and make a very quick decision because they literally have a leak that needs to be solved right now. For someone in, say the wealth services area, they are probably going to be more likely to spend time researching who this is, looking at reviews, looking at your credibility, seeing is this someone I even want to spend time, reaching out to. And so it's really important to look at what I call your digital footprint. So when someone is researching you, what are they going to find? And obviously not just your website, but what are they going to find on YouTube, on review sites, on Reddit? What are the things that come up? And so you want to make sure that you are getting a lot of great information out there, that you are collecting great reviews that people and case studies like you mentioned, so people have that credibility elements to find, and also putting out really great content so that whether they're finding you through that content or they're finding you through an ad and then saying, let me check out what they're doing. And they see, they're making a ton of really interesting videos on YouTube, or, hey, this article is fantastic. Let me read this, or let me, download this white paper. This answers my question. Great. Let me give my email address to you. Then that gets them into your ecosystem, and that allows you to nurture them over time for those people who might not be ready today to pull the trigger. But if you can build a relationship with them, then they might be a fantastic client down the road.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, SEO versus Google Ads, obviously you should have both, right? But, creating the blogs, the content, and boosting your SEO, and then kind of boosting that with Google Ads. Kind of talk to us about that kind of strategy. Maybe it's a little bit like the Facebook and the Google, right? You're going to have both. Walk us through your thoughts on that and when to implement each one of them.
Yeah, a couple factors there. Like you said, both is always best. And there's certainly studies out there that show that if you have great ads showing up and good organic results, you're exponentially more likely to get a click through from someone than if you just have one or just have the other, because they see you multiple times and that builds trust. SEO obviously is more of a longer play. It can take a long time to rank well, and it can be very mystifying too. You can drop off and not know why and have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to get back on. Ads are more, instant gratification, where you have a lot more information and ability to say, okay, I really want to show up. I'm going to put more money into this, bid more aggressively. The downside, obviously, is you are paying for each click, so it can get expensive. So there's pros and cons to both, but they're both important. And then there's really this third thing now, which people will call, some people call it GEO now, generative engine optimization. It's what we talked about at the beginning: AI, LLMs showing up for ChatGPT, for AI overviews, etc. And so it's kind of SEO, but also on top of SEO, a new discipline that's becoming more and more important as people use those tools more and more often to find solutions.
Um, is there a strategy to feed the LLMs your information and your details and your videos and your content? Do you think that's something where, if you have a bunch of content, a bunch of things, you're feeding it and it's going to be more likely to feed it to others?
I think it's super important. I'm very much in the camp of, so I'm not in the camp of, I don't want, LLM stealing my stuff. I'm the camp of, I want everyone to see us as a thought leader, to see our information come up when they search wherever it is. And so putting out good content through a variety of methods is really helpful in that. So like you mentioned, YouTube videos, articles on your own website, getting great reviews, engaging with people on Reddit and posting on Reddit, all those types of things can be really helpful in getting LLMs to summarize you. And that is going to be really crucial, again, to people actually coming across you when they search those services. And then whether they're clicking through from ChatGPT or just seeing, oh, yeah, this is the source for this information, and then getting you in their brain for when they come back another time, that I think is critical.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I was watching over the weekend this AI video about reaching out automatically on LinkedIn to invite people to set up a call, and it analyzes their profile. You just drop the link in there. I'm thinking about like Reddit, for example. If you can create a bot that says, "Hey, I want you to log into the Reddit site, and once a day or once a week, I want you to post all of these blogs that I've already done, or post a summary or a question about that," and like get this because Reddit seems like that's a low hanging fruit. You keep mentioning that, but I don't think a lot of people are necessarily actively putting stuff on there. Maybe it's more like they get responded to. They're responding to like something that someone talked about it. So are you using AI to automate some of these repetitive tasks like outreach and direct marketing? Any kind of thoughts on like building the bots or building agents for this kind of thing?
Yeah, I would say transparently, we're not where I want to be yet in terms of leveraging those things. I think there's a ton of opportunity, and we're digging in right now to figure out what are the right solutions, what are the best agent builders, so that we can make that happen. But because it's going to allow us A, to do things more efficiently, but B, do more things than we're doing right now, which I think is really important. And one other point I would make too on this AI side of things is the importance of creating really good, original, new content, which is not a new idea. It's what they've been saying SEO for forever as well. But what we see is a lot of businesses just using the AI to generate their own content. It's like, oh, hey, we can put out tons of blog posts. I'm just going to write that with ChatGPT, etc. And ChatGPT doesn't want to go source a bunch of ChatGPT stuff. They want to source stuff no one else has. So a good example here at StubGroup, we're working on releasing a bunch of data right now that's proprietary to us about the Google Ads account suspension space, because we do a lot of work there. We know, what are the types of policies people get suspended for, how long does it take to get unsuspended, things like that. And those are data points that just don't exist right now out in the world. And so when we put that out and ChatGPT is looking for answers to these questions, they're going to see us as a solution, and that dramatically increases the likelihood of us being the ones that then get pulled into a ChatGPT conversation versus, someone else who just used ChatGPT to write five regurgitated posts about the same thing.
Okay, that's good. Last couple of questions, then we'll go to the lightning round. HubSpot versus Go High Level versus the CRM. Is there anything that you recommend or that you like or you found as the best experience when it comes to Google Ads and managing and seeing all the analytics and the flow of all this?
We've experienced with both HubSpot and High Level and some other platforms, and man, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. I would say for most businesses, Salesforce is too complicated. The clients I see using Salesforce get caught up in the weeds very, very often, unfortunately. I think both HubSpot and High Level they have different strengths and weaknesses, but they're both very doable when it comes to using Google Ads to track things.
If you had to pick one, what do you feel like is like the go-to if you had to start your company from scratch? What would you pick?
At the moment, I would pick HubSpot.
Okay.
That may change, but at the moment, I'm HubSpot.
Okay, right on. This has been amazing. I want to run to the lightning round. Before though, we always ask one big question, especially for those who are in your space that may have other entrepreneurs, or you be the entrepreneur that are exiting highly appreciated assets, facing massive capital gains tax, right? I'm curious, like in your world, as you build your company or companies that you built in the past, what have you found or have you not found when it comes to, capital gains tax solutions for your exit for a business, real estate, Bitcoin, anything kind of come to mind? And then I'll kind of share with you a little bit what we do.
Yeah, I have not yet been involved in a liquidity event, so it hasn't been something honestly that I've had to put too much thought into. Really, mostly focused on building the business to get to that point and have that consideration.
Absolutely. And for those who are listening, like John Horn, you're building a business, you'll spend 5, 10, 15, 20 years building the thing to millions or maybe billions. And then when you go to exit, guess what? The problem is they're going to take 20 to 50% of that. And so if you think about it, you want to have a capital gains tax exit plan so that you have that extra 20 to 50%. So all the time, blood, sweat, and tears that you're building doesn't just go out the door when you exit. And that's what we specialize here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, is building capital gains tax exit plans so you can multiply your freedom and impact for your family, for others, for things that you care about, rather than just having it all wasted away quickly, likely from the government that spends like there's no tomorrow. If you want to learn more about that, you go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, or pick up the book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, that can help you prepare for your exit, whether it be tomorrow, whether it be a year or 2 years from now. We do need to set these things up before close of escrow, so make sure you don't wait. Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. All right, that being said, you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right, John, knowing as you know now, if you can go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one gold nugget, or your 20-year-old self, depending on how old you are now, to make sure to tell what would you tell yourself to do? What's the one gold nugget?
Perspective is key. What is the hardest thing you're going through right now will be easy in a year. And remember that it gets easier. You'll have new challenges, but what you're going through right now is very doable.
Awesome. I love it. Number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Past year, probably $100 million Leads by Alex Hormozi.
Excellent. Next question. What are you most curious about right now?
AI and just how it's going to change the entire world. Yeah, put it that way.
Yep, absolutely. Me too. Last question, and we'll wrap it up, which is what we really our thesis or our premise for this entire show, Build It to Billions. And by the way, we're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channels as well. For those that are listening, make sure you subscribe there. And this is the question: how do you best practice a stewardship mindset over ownership, John? And how do you keep yourself charged up to even to reach even higher heights?
One of the ways I'd say I'd keep charged up is my family is incredibly supportive. I've got a wife, 3 little kids, and that just brings so much joy getting up in the morning and saying, okay, I am working on building this business to make sure they have stability, make sure they have opportunities. And so that's a big why behind what I do. And as far as stewardship goes, I'd say one of the things that I've learned over time is the importance of looking at your team and truly trying to have an unbiased assessment of how they're contributing to things, and saying, hey, if someone, I may really like them, I may have a great relationship with them, but if they're not pulling their weight, as a steward of the company and the rest of the team, it's my responsibility to either make sure we fix that or say, hey, we're not the right fit for you, because there's no room for dead weight in business. And it's important in my responsibility to our other team members to say, hey, everyone I bring on is going to have excellence in their job. And if not, this is just not the right place for them to work.
John Horn, so much wisdom, so much insight. I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for laying out, the differences right now between AI and Google Ads and how to implement these things. And man, you covered a ton of content. Keep using your gifts to help businesses compound and make a big difference for the services they're delivering through Google Ads, through marketing. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Best place, stubgroup.com.
Excellent. Thanks, John. I also want to thank all of our listeners again for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast, also stream on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channels. And we're on this journey with you to scale from millions to billions so we can give more all the way to help MVPs, the most vulnerable people. I want to encourage you to take action today. Again, if you have a massive exit, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to plan that out. And hire the who, don't be the how. Get the Google ads going with the John Horn and his team. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to everyone again real soon. Bye now.